The Defenders at the Showboats. DC favored by 5 here. Total is at 46. Forecast for Memphis, 87 with some gusty winds. Could affect the passing game in this one. Slight chance of a storm as well. Let's start with the DC offense. Really, when you look at the only matchup of the weekend between non-playoff teams, what do you have to factor in when you're betting? Well, you have to factor in backups potentially seeing the field the same way we talked about with the Arlington Renegades this week. So you point to the top with Jordan Ta'amu. Will he start? Will they give Jalen McClendon the keys? We don't know officially yet, but I think Jordan will continue to start through the end of the season. I would not be surprised to see a little more Jalen McClendon, especially if this game gets out of hand in the second half. We saw Jalen down the stretch with the Vegas Vipers last season, and he played well. So this could be a spot for him to maybe get some reps, but I don't think Jordan is going away anytime soon. Outside of that, DC's offense should be business as usual because all the tight ends and receivers have sort of rotated snap counts throughout the season anyway, different workloads. I know some UFL teams, they stick to the starting 3 wide receivers, and then they got their tight end. It doesn't change. That has not happened in DC. They've had everybody start at least a game between the receivers, the tight ends, and even the running backs. They've been trying to feed the hot hand, so the lineup has really been all over the map for Fred Keiss personnel-wise. I am excited to watch Ty Scott again against this Memphis defense. Obviously, they are putrid against the pass. I mean, you're giving up 245 yards a game, so should be a chance for Ty Scott to put up some real numbers, and he just keeps getting better. Since they made the no-brainer decision to start him, and they also had Kelvin Harmon, their wide receiver 1, go down with an injury. Ty Scott breaking off 20 yards a catch this season. And he scored last week against St. Louis in the clutch. That pulled DC ahead before they surrendered the lead late. But I think Ty Scott is the difference, and he's a guy who can make a huge impact against a banged-up Memphis secondary in this game. Overall, you're seeing some of the highlights here if you're with us on YouTube and Twitter. I was impressed with the way DC moved the ball. This was a solid St. Louis defense that they were tasked to go against, and they played a lot better than they did back in week, 4, when they only scored 12 points. The first down passing game is what was really clicking for Fred Keiss. We didn't have a lot of the 3 yards in a cloud of dust up the middle on first down anymore. It seemed to me like they wanted to push it down the field on those first down opportunities. Now, the 2 interceptions were absolute game destroyers. They threw DC off script. They allowed St. Louis to capitalize on those turnovers. So you can't have that. But if DC's able to throw the ball like they did last week, this one could be over pretty quick. I just don't know at this point in the season what kind of effort to expect out of DC. Was that St. Louis game their last gasp of the 2024 season? And if so, again, is the staff going to throw some guys in there to get some reps that we wouldn't normally see? So I've been sort of back and forth this whole season, getting the right read on the Defenders. I feel like I had a better pulse on them last season, maybe because they were winning. But this year, it's been back and forth. Last week, nailed it. I said they're going to cover against St. Louis. They covered. I said they're going to cover against Birmingham. They covered. I had them against San Antonio a couple weeks ago, money line at home. They win. But there were spots where I was completely off the mark on this team, and Zook let me hear about it. I had them pretty confidently on the money line against Michigan. Looked like they didn't get off the bus in that game. So I am going to go edge of the DC offense. I think they could score 25 to 30 on Memphis here in this game. Looking at the Memphis offense, another team where it's going to be an interesting week from a quarterback perspective because DC actually is missing 2 members of the starting secondary, Michael Joseph and safety Santos Ramirez. both not practicing this week. They've been staples of that defensive backfield really for the last 2 years under Greg Williams, some of his favorite guys. So could be an opportunity for whatever quarterback we do see here to take advantage of. I know Case Cookus and Troy Williams have both been limited in practice, both had their respective injuries the last 2 weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if John DeFilippo calls up Josh Love, who did get some reps last week in Ford Field and looked solid in that second half, filling in for Cookus. It's kind of this theme, right, of third quarterbacks that were inactive all season in the UFL now getting a chance, and it seems to fire up the rest of the offense. Even though the talent might not be there, the spark that it provides is there, and they want to make the most of their reps. It also could be a bonus because defensive coordinators might not really know exactly what the threat is. When you look at the Memphis run game, Darius Victor, I mean, it's just not working, and we're going to get into that in a bit. So the load could be heavily on whoever quarterbacks Memphis here to throw it a ton. The offense dropping the quarterback back on 66% of all snaps. That is mind-blowing, especially when you consider Birmingham, 50-50. Michigan, 50-50. That's where you want to be. Unless your offense is like the air raid, you want to have that run balance. They don't have it. Can't establish a run. Their defense isn't doing them any favors, of course, to set up the run, but it's really been a major reason why the Showboats have fallen to 1-7. The one thing Memphis has going for them in this spot is their postseason hopes were already out the door weeks ago. So they've been able to kind of process that disappointment of, okay, we're not as good as we thought we were. We're not making the playoffs. You know, that's kind of out of their system now. They can play loose. They have nothing to lose here. I think that's kind of what helped them give a really good fight to Michigan last week on the road is they just don't really – that's already out the door. Like, they're not going to be frustrated at this point that they've missed the playoffs when it's been 3 weeks of them knowing they were eliminated from the postseason. And Dawood Davis is going to be a problem for DC, as he has been with every secondary. He reminds me a lot of Jeff Badette, right? Great receiver, bad team, right? It's the same situation as Badette with the Vipers last season. 38 catches, 443 yards for Davis. I mean, he's second in the league in targets. So I think he presents a pretty big challenge for a DC defense that looked good last week. We had him at 94 passing yards allowed to St. Louis, again, without A.J. McCarron. They did get 4 sacks, and they were 70% on third down, which is important to Greg Williams. I just think the defender's front has a significant advantage against this offensive line. Memphis has given up 36 sacks on the year. That's 4.5 a game. So I think they take some anger out on Memphis in this spot. It kind of much like Arlington did when they were 0-6. They had just freshly been eliminated from the playoffs, and they were looking to beat somebody down. I think that happens here with DC. Defenders are going to be the pick for me here. I really love the chance to get him at 5, too, because I think you go into this season, you're thinking DC is maybe 5 points as favored against the Showboats, but as the season went on, that separation grew, and that's why I'm taking them to win and cover.
I'm taking them to win. I'm not taking them to cover.